Hi, this is Bobby G, and this is Bobby G's Big Stone, Austin, Texas. And my guest today is PJ. PJ is the host of TeXchromosome on KOOP 97.1 on your FM dial, or KOOP.org. And I'm so happy to have you here today. And PJ is just a huge advocate of women and women's music here in Austin, and she really makes this town a special place. And without further ado, PJ.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I am a big advocate for women in music. My mom was a woman who really wanted to pursue music, but had a family and did what she thought that she was supposed to do. She wanted to be on Broadway. And so my sister was a dancer, and my mother was thrilled about that. And then I was the youngest of 5, so I was always wanting to be heard, and always singing, driving everybody crazy. And I just loved trying to be part of the conversation, even though people didn't really want me to be, because I was just this little kid. And I just always remember my mother encouraging me. She was musical. As I got older, I actually went to her dance recitals, and people were like, "Oh, are your kids here?" I was like, "No, it's my mom." But I come from a really musical, eclectic background, and women always played a huge, strong role in my world. And my mother was the matriarch of my family. My dad passed away when he was like 46, so very young, and left her with a bunch of kids. And she was a teacher. She was a first grade teacher. I actually had her for first grade. I joke all the time that I'm scarred for life. Just look at my handwriting. But she was fun, and she loved to do different events and things. She was just, and I guess I just followed in her footsteps, even though, no one wants to become their mother. But I'm a spitting image, and she did theater when she was older, and she was just a real inspiration to me. But she was a stage mother. She would come to my shows, and she would, afterwards I'd get the critique of, why do you close your eyes? You need to you need to convey to the audience. And, and I'm like, "Mom, I'm hanging on for dear life, playing the guitar and singing at the same time. You have no idea." But, so she was a huge part of it. My brother was 15 years older than me, so I grew up on 45s, and him dancing with his girlfriends, and then later on my older sister's LPs, listening to vinyl and the headphones. And I always wanted to have my own radio show, and the girl across the street, Karen Satter, we used to make these commercials, and, I had my own little radio show, and it finally came to fruition, and I just love it. I love, I play music still, but not as much. Once I got into my 50s, driving around in a van with 5 sweaty guys was just my idea of a great time. And, I never made it big. And so it was always a station wagon or rented car or something like that. And I wanted to be able to help other people and other women. And there wasn't any women when I started, really. There was just a handful. And even I'll be 63 in a couple weeks, and as a teenager, there was Joan Jett, and there was, Fanny. I mean, I would want to stay home and watch rock concert or a midnight special. I didn't want to go out. I wanted to watch those shows, or if we were at parties, it would be like, "Come on, Tina Turner's on rock concert. We need to watch it." So it was I just grew up in that glorious time of the 70s, and just as as glorious as it was dangerous. No women did what I did, hardly at all. And so that was kind of cool, but I always felt like I had a harder edge than I really needed to, because I needed to feel protected. Yeah. And, there's a few times that I've had to, poke somebody in the eye or hit him in the windpipe or whatever. You have to, as a woman, especially in this kind of industry, you have to know how to protect yourself. And I don't carry a gun. I won't carry a gun. But, you've got to be tall and confident and stand tall and confident. You don't have to actually be tall, but stand tall and be confident. And that's kind of, it's amazing what I've seen. I was born in 1962, so what I've seen, and now we're kind of going back to that. I saw when Roe versus Wade became okay, and then the whole turnover again, and the women's lib and all of that. And it just doesn't seem like we've really gone that far, and we're kind of coming back. So I think it's incredibly important to lift the female voice and the matriarch. And the women were the ones that told the stories and held the history in the tribes. They were the ones that sang the songs. And so for me, what I do with TeXchromosome women is I let people hear those songs that they wouldn't normally hear on commercial radio.
Well,
that was a long answer. I'm really sorry.
No. I think it's beautiful that what you do, that Austin has that available. That there's a someone like you to stand up for women here in town.
Well, there's.
is that common in other cities? You've traveled around a bit, I'm sure. So there's tons and tons of women's organizations. I don't know of any other, except for on KOOP, Eclectic Ladyland plays nothing but women. But in radio, it was always taboo, and I think it's better that you can't play. We can certainly play several women in a row, but you used to not be able to play two women together on radio. And community radio is the only thing that can really break those rules and can break that glass house. I don't really know any commercial stations or Sirius or anything like that, although I think TeXchromosome would be perfect for that, for my own XM show. But I don't know, maybe they'd try to tell me what to do. That's what I love about community radio is, are there guidelines? Yeah, there are. But I get to do the disclaimer in the front of the show saying these have nothing to do with KOOP's board of directors and blah, blah, blah. And then I get to have a real conversation with somebody and not have to worry about upsetting a person that is giving this, a commercial station money or something, we can't swear, we can't call to action, stuff like that. But, who wants to have Crazy Eddie in their face all day? So that's what's so awesome about community radio. It's radio for people, not for profit. That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now you came, so how long have you had TeXchromosome?
It's actually called TeXchromosome. TeXchromosome, and the X is rather large, usually, except for in some of the different graphics. But our actual logo that we have registered is TE, huge X, and then chromosome being the X chromosome. Having to do it. Yeah, you'd be surprised though, because when we did start out, actually, we tried to just play Texas women artists, and it just was. We didn't even have 2 or 3 shows, and I was like, this is just impossible. There are too many female singer-songwriters or rock and rollers, independent, that fly under the radar. We can't just do Texas, So that's how we ended up being TeXchromosome Women, and we've just released this amazing double vinyl album that is...
Will you hold that up, please?
Absolutely.
And where we can...
We can get this at TeXchromosomeWomen.org.
Okay.
And you can, since we are a women's nonprofit, and that's another whole thing entirely, how we support our women is to have the radio show, and then also these art projects. The original art from Karen Dittman is another whole story.
Yeah.
So, but, well, goodness gracious. So if you want to talk about women that have inspired you, let's first talk about, for me, when I was young, I had this totally rockin' in the 70s, Senorita Baker, who was my Spanish teacher, who wore leather mini skirts and was, suede and totally rocking the whole hippie thing, and was from Spain. And we had the Spanish chorus, and that was the whole, her playing the guitar, her singing, learning about this whole other culture that I love so much, the Latina culture and the music, the art, everything about it, the food, especially the food.
Is she alive today?
I don't know. And actually, now that we've had this conversation where you asked me to think about that, I've thought about that. But so, I was part of the Spanish chorus, and I learned how to speak a little bit of Spanish, just enough to be dangerous, but I knew the songs. And so that sort of really started me on my path, even though my mom was very, theatrical, let's say, in lots of ways, and very musical. But this woman made me realize that I could play guitar and sing at the same time, and it didn't have to be anything fancy. And so she was just so sweet, and of course I excelled in Spanish. But that really, she has always stayed with me. But really, there's so many people that touch me through my life that have made me curious and have made me want to kind of figure it out. And I love art. And the other person that was huge in my life, and I kind of knew a little bit of art, but not really. But when I met this particular woman, the artist that did all the artwork on this record, her name is Karen Dittman. She turns 81 this year.
And does she live here in Austin?
She lives in Dallas.
Okay.
So
I remember
how we found the original artwork that ended up here were these posters that were drawn in black and white, which is on each one of these beautiful translucent red records. But so my husband, Jason Swedberg, found them in the kitchen at Texas Monthly when he worked there. He worked there for like 13 years. And so he brought them home, and I instantly fell in love. So all of those drawings that are on the inside, these here, they've been colorized, but this girl stepping on the armadillo here, you probably can't see it, but we'll pull something up and try to figure it out. But she was friends with Jim Franklin and all the Armadillo Squad people. Like I was talking about earlier, we were talking about the Greasy Wheels and the Armadillo headquarters and everything. Well, she was friends with those guys, but she was a woman, and she had like kids in tow all the time, But she was this incredible artist and never really got noticed. She's from Fredericksburg. She was a social commentary artist. Her name is Karen Dittman. And, if you look, she doesn't have really a website. She has nothing like that. And we found these black and white drawings, and it took me 20 years to find her. I finally found her in 2019. And it was I was terrified. Because I was like, oh my God, even though these are all from 1970, whatever, I would be pissed, but I couldn't find her. So I didn't know if she was alive or, or something, but it turned out that she was a student at UT, and she owned a secondhand clothing store on 6th Street with Zan, who is actually a real person, who is this gal here on here. And they helped the local comedy people do costumes and stuff. Esther's Follies, it's just like this whole weird thing that just comes together. I found Karen through Cleve and the Greasy Wheels. We just didn't know how. Literally, it took me 20 years to find her. And so I met her, and she instantly became the light in my heart. And it was like I met maybe a lover or a mother or a sister or somebody from another life. And everything about her, she shines like a little beacon. And her work is so impressive, and she just kind of let it go. She just let it go. She didn't do it. So when we released this record, she had painted this picture or this painting of Ruth Ginsburg. And I was like, this is it. This is the cover, And so we did the artwork to it and everything. But Ruth had just passed, so it's sort of like a memorial of her, of that. And this is one of her paintings as well. So we had an art show as well as a listening party for this album, because there's 25 different artists on here, and so these artists get regular radio, and part of it is that I send it to community radio stations to be able to help lift the voices of these women. I don't try to, it's in a few record stores, but really we made this to send out to community radio so that they can have, these women were from all over the country in Mexico. And so it's just kind of a real, feels like a big hug. I don't know what to say about that, except for when we released this, we did a listening party with Amethyst Jonqui, who's a young emerging artist, and we had Akina Adderley, who is an R&B soul singer. And then we had an art show of anybody who had put a song on this compilation was welcome to put a companion art piece up for the art show. And they could sell it, they could keep it, they didn't have to do anything. But we hung a whole bunch of Karen's art, and it was the first art show she had in 50 years. And so it just, to see that excitement of being a creator again was so incredible. And just to see her come alive again, to start painting and feel connected, I guess, to a whole group of folks that just absolutely love her. So,
and maybe respected in a way she'd never been before. Right?
She's done some pretty incredible stuff. The funny part is that I reached out to this gentleman, Ron Dorsey, who's a very prominent photographer here in Austin. And he was like, oh yeah, I remember Karen and Zan. And he said, I actually took a lot of those photographs that are Karen's drawings. And I was like, oh my God. And so he came over with this box of, they had an envelope full of all these old contact sheets and negatives, black and white negatives. He had a big box of magazines. Karen was the editor of Austin People magazine.
Oh, okay.
That was like in the 80s to the early 90s. And she didn't even remember that. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm taking pictures of these things. And there's photos from the 70s of people in Austin music, people in the comedy scene, there's politicians, and there's pictures of 6th Street from the 70s, and it's just really cool. The whole thing is just like this art dive. And so I started sending her pictures, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is your life, Karen Dittman?" And I was like, "It kind of feels like that, doesn't it?" She's like, "I didn't even remember that I did that magazine." I was like, "How could you not remember you were the editor of a magazine?" She goes, "Oh, Penny, we took so many Quaaludes." And she was like, and then it started bringing all these things back, and the stories of, hanging out at Hugh Hefner's house when she worked at the R&B Report and in the 70s. And I'm just like, oh my God, this has got to be a movie. But she has opened my world to a part of Austin that I didn't realize that there was another facet to. Like, I knew it through Cleve and Mary and Lissa from the Greasy Wheels, since they were the house band for the Armadillo headquarters. But there was this whole back story of these women who supported that stuff that never got acknowledged. The stories are just crazy. I hope that I get to write them down. It's incredible. So
It sounds like it would make a great documentary.
Well, here we go. We're starting. Yeah. I would love that. I mean, there's just so much interesting, and I don't know what it is, but I feel that I have had such a, and I'm not center stage, of it. Sometimes I'm just a casual observer. I might be part of it, but a lot of it is just that I've got to witness so much of Austin history. I just kind of fell in there. But I love it. I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Yeah. I love the creativity here. I love the people.
Yeah. And I've seen it change. I've seen it change over the years. But gosh, when I first came here for South by Southwest in the early 90s, oh my God, Austin was the ugliest city ever. Just downtown was worn down buildings, and it's kind of cool and all in a certain way, but the vermin, and I think we've done a pretty good job of keeping the green space, and okay, so Liberty Lunch isn't there, I'm sorry, but the history is there, and there's some other places that aren't there, but let's embrace the future. Let's try and control what happens in the future, not lament what's gone that you can't replace. Yeah. So, but.
Yeah, I tell people that, that I've been here since the early 2000s, and the skyline has certainly changed.
Oh, absolutely.
But just great people.
Yeah.
I still find great people, and I love hearing the stories, and so the creativity and the people in the heart of the city, it seems to me, is
to see the
here.
skyline change, go up on the top floor of the new HEB at Oldorf. Oh my God, that was the original HEB. I lived down the street from that for many years, and to go up there and see the skyline, it's just so beautiful. And they've their stores are open. The businesses are going. There's people downtown again. And I think that's important. If everybody's not in what's called the heart of the city or downtown and don't ever go there, that's a big part of the community that's gone.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to see more people in the offices, but
hopefully
that will.
Real estate's expensive here in Austin.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is, but get more people in the offices working down there and supporting the local bars and supporting the delis and restaurants,
right. Well,
and so on and so forth.
There's a lot of problems, because, I worked downtown. I would show up at 8 o'clock in the morning to open the place that I was going to go work at, and be stepping over this and stepping over them, and stepping over that and, looking over my shoulder. I think it's starting to feel a little safer down there. Mm-hmm. But it's we have such a homeless problem. It's really, really sad. And
no doubt.
I hope that we can figure it out.
Yeah. Well,
where we don't end up
I had Alan Graham as a guest here.
Yeah.
And are you familiar with Alan? No. Oh, Alan's an amazing
I'll
guy.
let you talk for a little bit now.
He started
Pops.
he started Mobilos and Fishes.
Oh, yes.
And so
yeah, over there at Sunrise.
I participated in that with the kids when they were in scouting. And then he started the tiny homes community out on the east side.
Oh.
And he just has an amazing story.
Well, I can't wait to hear that.
He's just a beautiful, beautiful soul. So there are people out there doing the right thing and trying to solve the problem.
You and I just met, really, and I didn't really know anything about what you do or what you whatever. We just liked having a conversation, and I like the light in your eyes.
Well,
you've got a real sparkle. Where do people find
my podcast?
Yeah.
They can find my podcast on Apple and Spotify and YouTube. Mm-hmm. And it was just it was an idea that I had prior to COVID, mm-hmm. and I worked on it a bit in an audio format, mm-hmm. and I tabled it during COVID, and last year it just kind of bubbled up. It's kind of like a splinter on your skin. It
Absolutely.
just popped out.
Can you tell I'm a natural interviewer? He kept saying, "This isn't about me. It's not about me."
Anyway,
I love having just candid conversations, and I like that. When I didn't know if I was going to come to a script or whatever, because I don't. Some of the people that do shows, and God bless them, however they want to do it, they've got every single word written out, even, mm-hmm. ha ha ha. So I like the whole roll of the dice kind of thing.
Oh, well, I've always enjoyed just going out and sitting at a bar and having dinner, mm-hmm. and chatting with whoever.
Counterculture.
Whoever came up next to me,
mm-hmm.
and I've met some amazing people here in mm-hmm. Austin, some amazing musicians, and just all kinds of crazy people. Mm-hmm. And this is my attempt to just kind of take that here and just back it up, but hear really cool stories about the people that have come into our lives, and mm-hmm. and I've got this memory as a small kid standing by the side of a pond and digging out the biggest stone I could manage to pull out of the mud. Mm-hmm. And I had it over my head, and I remember just dropping it in the water. And I remember, I don't know.
Seeing the ripple?
Well, the ripple, and also that kerplunk. Mm-hmm. That kerplunk noise. It just.
We called it a bloop.
A bloop, yeah, it is like a bloop, mm-hmm. and the splash, of course, and so that will stick with me forever. Much like the fifth grade teacher that I had, mm-hmm. Mrs. Drabick, because going into fifth grade, I was just a really shy. I just hadn't found success in school. Mm-hmm. If I was called out to read out loud, I kind of froze up, and
I turned to beet red. I would be so embarrassed,
right.
And then be like, what's the matter with you? And it'd make it even worse. Was so
So it wasn't a cool experience.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Drabick, I can't point out something she did in the curriculum that changed my life, but she made me feel safe, mm-hmm. and she made me want to go to school, and maybe it was because she was some good-looking young teacher or whatever, who knows what.
Right.
But she changed the trajectory of my life. And then 30 years later, I had this spiritual teacher named Keith Miller who said, "Who's the person who came into your life and showed you love and encouragement outside of your immediate family. And, you know, her name
Right.
popped in my head like that.
Senorita Baker. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he encouraged all of us to write a thank you note, and I did. And
I'm going to do that.
1 week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and I'm checking my mailbox, and there's nothing in the mail, and I'm like, did I spell something wrong? You know, how did I fuck it up? I'm
We're allowed to swear?
I
was like,
and a week later, I got a letter from her. It was totally the opposite. She was like, you know, I can't believe this. Thank you. And I've got this letter under the glass on my desk.
oh, how sweet.
You know, so I can see it every
I'm
day.
gonna
And
reach out to her.
She was a principal, and
Yeah.
she was just, and so that's, you know, there's so many cool people in here in Austin, and I love to hear about what they do and what you do, and then it's like that. Now
We've
I want
just scratched the
now
surface.
I want to hear the backstory. I want to hear about the, you know, Senorita Baker
Yeah.
and her miniskirt, her leather miniskirt.
Yes.
And you know,
It was macrame together, you know, one of those ones that look like the scallops. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about exactly, don't you?
I'm a child of the 70s,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, I want to hear about what she comes back to you with, because I'm sure she's out there
After.
on social media.
Yeah. Well, she did get married. I think her name was Mrs. Kendall after that. You know, I can't remember, but I'll look.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, my mom was a teacher in the school district where I went to school, so I can probably find that information
hunt this down.
without. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't like to dig back too much into that world. I'm a forward. Let's go forward. We can't change that.
Yeah.
I can learn from it, but you know.
But to tip your hat and say thank you to somebody who.
Yeah. No,
had
I
a
think that's
positive-
great. I think that's great.
I
Yeah.
think that's really cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm actually in touch with this 5th grade teacher right now. She's on Facebook, and we've
Wow.
corresponded and gone back and forth. And
Yeah. I don't
I'm like,
know.
I want to hear the story about what brought her to school. Because I think she was a single mom with a young son, and you know. Anyway, cool
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. I would love to find out what she was doing. I would love to let her know that she made a difference, because I think, especially with education being in such a precarious place right now, education, you know, public education is going to get chopped, you know, public radio probably, you know, already we've had prescriptions chopped for, you know, for elderly people. I mean, you know, unfortunately, it's January 2020. Are we 21 yet or 22? Somewhere in there, and it still is just this horrible transference of, you know, hope to bully, you know. So I think it's important to let those people know that they've made a difference in your world when it's so shitty.
Yeah.
I swore.
Nice. Well, what about any others? Tell me about others. Clearly there's others.
God, I don't know. There's so many stories.
Or what about people here in Austin that have, you know,
Well,
you moved here in 1996.
I did. I moved here, but I already knew Cleve and Mary, and
You met them a couple of years earlier.
I had
right?
met them, and then I would try to see them every year. I would come back for South by Southwest.
They sound like an amazing couple.
Oh my God, you know, and Mary just turned 81, and you know, she's just still this angelic, beautiful fiddle player that you can't help but fall in love when you see the
You
look
said they
on
were
her
like
face.
the Texas Grateful Dead?
They were the Greasy Wheels were called the Grateful Dead of Texas, and I guess I kind of get that, but sometimes, you know, Margaret Mosher called them a country band, but it's like, just because you got a fiddle in the band, you know, it's just one of those things where no one ever really knew where to put them, you know, and which was perfect for me. And but I call them mom and dad, and Lissa is like a sister pretty much. I mean, we are so tight when it comes to singing, and that's...
And Alyssa is their daughter?
Lissa is Cleve's sister.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's I don't know. I can't explain it. It's like magic. We would come together. They now live in where do they live? Las Cruces, and they came back last summer, and we had one rehearsal and then played a show, and it was like magic. It would just that. Putting on your favorite pair of shoes or putting on your favorite jeans or something like that just feels so natural. And that's what I love about music. And that's what draws me to music is, and not all music, but music that is authentic and not contrived and sort of organic, I guess. That's why I bypassed Nashville. I was already in my 30s, and so they want 10-year-olds. So I just went right past that and down here where the music scene is so vibrant with all ages. The young are encouraged and the old dance and still have the love of sharing their craft. And fortunately, it's just so fertile here with music because people, the Delta or something, you think about that, how they got stuck here. A lot of folks came to visit and never left.
What do you think was what's at the university that brought people here, that brought the creativity here, or is it something else?
I don't know as if I'm the one to answer that question. I don't know, since I'm a different, it had already started. It was already in full swing and, frankly, sort of waning a little bit, in the 80s, Timbuk 3 got discovered here, Fastball got discovered here, all this MTV was new, and they actually played music. And
I remember seeing some MTV.
And they did a whole thing about Austin. Yeah.
I think they came by for South by? Was that what
they came at South by and they did this whole thing and a bunch of acts got signed. And changed people's lives. But that doesn't happen anymore. That's everybody and their mother plays music now.
Yeah.
It's so we've been so inundated with mediocre stuff because everybody thinks that, especially after, during COVID, everybody found their inner singer-songwriter. It was just like, oh my God. But God bless people for trying, I guess. But it just, it kind of, the playing field gets, those that really need to make a living out of playing music and touring and those people that play for free, they really lower the bar and they cheapen it for the people that's their livelihood. So I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox.
Okay.
But that's why I push the independent artist, especially the female artists. Although they say now that there's more female artists with guitars here in Austin than there are in Nashville.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I've had somebody say that to me. And I was like, But it's hard for me to tell because that's really what is my focus. I don't, every now and then I get to cover a show for somebody who's got to go away or whatever. And it's like, oh my God, I get to do Search and Destroy. Yes. And I get to play some heavy metal. And so that's a lot of fun for me. And, the whole part of being a volunteer, I don't know. I just have always wanted to be part of something bigger, something.
How long have you been on KOOP?
I've been there for, I think, going on 6 years now.
And how did you get the invitation to come in there?
I didn't get the invitation. I hunted them down. I was doing internet radio through a bunch of different things from this one in San Antonio, and then he decided he couldn't take it anymore because trying to make sure that the artist gets paid and you've filled out all those things that you're supposed to fill. It's not just all fun and games of spinning music. You've got to, this is the album, this is the writer, this is the record label, this is, you have to document.
You got to fill out a log.
Oh, yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, that's how the people get paid.
Okay.
So when we first started out, or I should say although I am a nice bunch of girls, when I first started out, I was doing all these different internet shows, and then I started covering for this gal out at Wimberley Valley Radio, who was out for pregnancy, and it was the first time I ever did live radio, and I was so excited. I had such a blast, and I thought, wow, none of these people ask me for this information. Are they doing that on their own? Fuck no. They're not getting paid. They're not filling out that information. I stopped because I can't do that. That's betrayal to my artist friends.
Where does that get submitted to? Is there a database that it goes into, and then
again, I mean, it's really not that difficult, but still, there's responsibility that goes along with it. The FCC rules, and, the station rules can often be different, but it's so important for those artists to get paid.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, and of course it's all, again, it's gone now. We have 2 places that you can listen to TeXchromosome Women, and that is, you can go to the website at TeXchromosomeWomen.org, and you can click to Mixcloud, and you can hear our backlog, our archives of shows.
I listened a little today.
You can go to KOOP, keeps each show for 2 weeks, I believe. And so it gives me a little wiggle time to be able to get it up on our Mixcloud site. But you have to, even with that, you have to have a timestamp so that people know that you have reported that music. And that's really super important to me, especially for these people, I'm playing independent artists that don't normally get airplay and or I shouldn't say that. They get airplay, but they are not heard on commercial radio because they are not, and if they were, I wouldn't be playing them, But, so it's just that, making sure that they get paid and do my best to lift the voices of those that have important things to say. So, yeah.
Well, who's a new artist that you've recently sat down with, listened to, and such?
I'm a huge fan of India Ramey. Any of these women on here, absolutely, and you can find out who that is, but India is not on here. India Ramey, out of Nashville, kind of a retro country artist, but, totally balls out and not, it's not wimpy, but it's not like, what do they call that? Outlaw country either. Still intelligent lyrics, and I've always been a Sunny Sweeney fan. She always tells it like it is.
Yeah, I've heard her radio show on.
Yeah, on Sirius. Yeah, she's great. And man,
she's not from Austin though, is she?
She is.
Is she?
Yes, and
Is she here in town?
Well, no. I mean, she lives in Nashville now. Okay. I think that girl's been on the Opry more times than anybody I've ever known.
Have you been to the Opry?
I have, but it's been years, and I don't even remember what it was.
I'd like to go check out someone there.
Yeah,
I
just love the rhyming.
I look at their website from time to time, and I'm like, who do I need to go?
Yeah. But I mean, there's incredible women. Erica Winterstrom from the Heartless Bastards is probably, but I'm not listening to Moon and the Spoon songs, rhymey pop, hey, hey, I'm not listening to that. I'm listening, listen to Revolution from Erica the Heartless Bastard. No, there's no the Heartless Bastards. I can still hear that song and tear up because it's exactly how I feel about politics and about what's going on in our world and what's important. And I don't know, that's what I want to perpetuate. I don't want, oh, my baby left me on the side of the road. It might be fun for something silly, but, unless it's I actually, you know what, cut that. Don't say that. I just feel it's really important that we use our power as artists to create a message that isn't a lie and isn't violent, I guess. But then again, there's the clash. So I don't know. I mean, I'm so conflicted, but for me, I just really want to hear something that means something. And you can tell the difference when you listen to music, whether somebody made it up or they didn't, I think. So, I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. That's me. Blah, blah, blah. Can you tell I like to talk?
I love it. It's just such a nice conversation.
It's hard for me not to ask questions about you.
You can ask questions.
Well, I mean, you said you didn't want to talk about you, so.
No. What if I said that, that's not what I meant. What I meant was, I've listened to other podcasts where I hear
about how great they are.
Well, you hear somebody like stepping on their guests so they can make their own point.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah.
I'm just,
I had to learn that the hard way. I'm so embarrassed now when I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody. And have you ever had that where it's like every time you go to talk, it's like, you keep stepping on each other, and just finding that space to, give that little pause of let somebody, instead of just let your, I call it the brain jerk, not even the knee jerk reaction, the brain jerk where it's just like, ask that question.
Well, it's just, if you want to learn something, you got to shut your mouth.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to, it's going to be the same old garbage.
So you've learned a lot about me today.
I have.
Actually, not really. There's a lot tucked in those years. That's for sure.
Well, tell us more.
Oh my goodness, no! We want to talk about what's current. We don't want to talk about what's on. I am very excited, though. We are TeXchromosome women are producing through the radio station Womanifest 2025, and that is International Women's Day. We're kicking off International Women's Day month, March 1st, with a very diverse group of female artists, also music, as well as asking once again for people to submit social commentary, female-centric art to this particular extravaganza. But it also, we bring in the different community organizations at KOOP that are women-centric and have them table at this event. So it's kind of like a meet and greet. And it's not just for women. We need our allies. We need men to vote for us for having our own body rights. And, thank God we can have our own credit cards. They're never going to take that away from us. But so different women-centric nonprofits that help the community. And it's to celebrate International Women's Day, but also have folks know the different community services that are happening here in our town that lift the female voice.
Is this going to be an event on March 1st in town?
It's going to be here at Cherrywood Coffee House over on 38th and a half. They have an art gallery, a restaurant, sort of coffee bar.
Will it be all day long? Or?
It's from 11 to 4, and
11 to
it's
4.
in person.
Okay.
We are going to be archiving it on through community television to be played back at another time, but it won't be broadcast on air.
Okay. March 1st is
Saturday, March
it's a
1st,
Saturday.
from 11 to 4 at Cherrywood Coffee House. We have Nagavelli, and we also have a group from Canada called Miracle Cure. And we are still looking for another act, but we have the different nonprofits that are coming. We have the Texas Poet Laureate is coming in to do some poetry. We have there's a pause, a very pregnant pause. What's the name? Dress for Success, for women that are entering back into the work field. For whatever reason, it's a nonprofit that helps them get work clothes back. So we're having
So cool.
we're having a fashion show from them.
In
between, they're going to be there. All the different nonprofits will be interviewed, and we always take segments of that to use on the air.
If someone's interested in getting involved in this, because we've got a month and a half before it goes off.
Different nonprofits, you mean?
Yeah.
Or okay, so they would go to the KOOP.org website, and there's a section where it talks about our community council and the different things that we do for the community.
Okay.
And there's a link there to become one of our community organizations.
Cool.
Yeah. And each time that you submit to that, of course, there's a little bit of paperwork. It's not really any big deal. It's just finding out who's in charge and stuff. Mm-hmm. But your organization can get a PSA that we put into regular rotation for a year. They go in for a year, and then we have an open house, and we invite all the different nonprofits to come in, and we re-record a PSA for them. So we don't just keep old ones. We try to
How did
keep
you get involved in this?
in KOOP.
No, in this for.
Oh, it's my baby.
Oh, really?
And Womanifest has always been my
Womanifest.
baby. Yeah. Hashtag Womanifest.
And how long
So when people
is this
say,
this is
when
not the
people say
first
I'm
one.
manifesting that, I'm like, oh no,
You're
you are manifesting that. Absolutely. Yeah. I've been doing this. The first time we did it with the radio station was the year that the world fell apart, 2019.
Okay.
Or actually 2020, I guess. No. 2020. When was COVID? I'm so bad at
2020.
2020. So we were open the last day. It was when what's the name of that place? God, it feels like it's been forever. One to one
Oh,
on
yeah.
South Lamar.
Formerly
Kurt
on Fifth,
had,
right?
oh my God, yes. And Kurt had the best setup for audio, visual, all that stuff. And so we have it all on tape, and we have the different interviews with the different nonprofits. And Sarah Eckhart was at that time a judge, not a senator. And she was one of our MCs, but she was also the person that had to figure out what our protocol was for COVID, because the city was going to fucking shut down, and did. So we had the last day of music being that was the day that music died.
Oh man.
March 16th, 2020. And my husband works for South by, and I kept going, oh, it's going to happen. They'll never shut down South by. And somebody had said something, of course I don't watch the news because I can't handle it. But so somebody said, well, they're canceling cruises. I'm like, what are you talking about? But then, and I kept going, oh, there's no way that they're going to. And then when they did, I was like, oh my God, we are in so much trouble. I had 2 female artists. One girl was from Ireland, and the other one was from the West Coast, because we would do a showcase every South by. And they didn't know how they were going to get home. I mean, it was terrifying. People stuck all over the place. But we have this beautiful, beautiful experience in these, it was lovely. But unfortunately, there wasn't very many people there because everyone was afraid they were going to die. Yeah. But, it was like, we didn't even know if it was going to happen, because the GM, Federico, he was like, well, you have to have all these different, it's like, we'll have hand sanitizer there, we'll have masks if people want them, and, but it was really, we had the League of Women's Voters, we had Planned Parenthood, and it was the first time we did it, and it didn't happen, but gosh, we all got so close of this, and it went like, it was just so perfect. I mean, we did have some people, I shouldn't say them, but it just was so beautiful and just went so well. And man, Kurt was such a huge part of that, and so was One to One. And, unfortunately, neither one of those businesses exist anymore, but we have that. So we're going to be showing some of that footage from that as part of our reinventing that, or reintroducing it, I guess would be the right way to say it.
Well, what about for South by? Have you got anything planned for that?
I did a big 2-day thing last year, and it's just too hard. It's not fun for me. And I had actually I had a platinum badge for South by last year, and I never even picked it up, because that's how busy I was. And that to me is tragic, because I want to learn about all this new stuff instead of, So this year we are not doing that.
So this year you're just going to enjoy it?
This year I'm going to be actually going to the actual conference itself, and I'm going to be participating with Miracle Cure, which is the trio that I play in. Okay. And the gal that heads that is out of Canada. Nice. And so we're going to be playing in Dallas and Buda and some different places. And it's time for Penny Joe to have some fun. It's time for PJ to have fun.
I want to go hear you guys play.
Yeah, we got a date at Friday. I call it Feminist Friday at the Hole in the Wall. Dr. Lynn Coles is there bartending. Okay. She was a student at UT and is a doctor, a real doctor in social services, but she still bartends there every Friday for happy hour. And so
is it this Friday?
No, the Friday, the 28th of February.
Okay.
But I love to go there because I call it Feminist Friday, because there's usually a female band playing. And we always talk, we're just a bunch of feminist geeks. But I think that's really important right now, to have people, especially as women. Again, we're in this whole transition of this government that you don't understand how upsetting it is, I think, unless you're a female. Or unless you're somebody that's underserved. My husband is like, oh, I'm just not going to pay attention. It's no big deal. I'm like, that's because you're a white dude. I'm getting all these different fundings and things cut for me. Can you imagine if I was of childbearing age? Especially with the, now I know with the history that I had, I could have been dead several times if I didn't have women's emergency medical care. Don't call it abortion. That's awful. Nobody wants an abortion. It's women's emergency medical care. So, and I will wrestle somebody to the ground if they say that women use it as birth control. I will wrestle them to the fucking ground.
Yeah, that's pretty short-sighted.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm off on a tangent again. Sorry.
Well, I've had the absolute best time talking to you today, so I'm so happy that you came by.
Oh, yeah. It was so lovely to, we met on this little whim at a dinner party with from a friend who was an incredible cook, Julia Malanta,
Who is on another episode.
Who teaches cooking as well as this wonderful musician, and you can get her to come and make dinner for you and have a class, and also she will sing for you. And we didn't get the singing that night, at least before I was there, before I left. But I never know who I'm going to meet. So this was really fortuitous. She's just such a great artist and intelligent and conversationalist. And I never know who's going to be at one of these dinners. So thank you.
Thank you.
Then I appreciate you actually asking me to be part of your show.
Oh my God, it was beautiful.
Thank
because
you.
You do enrich the fabric of Austin.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
We're out.